Welcome in to Premade Dominate here at Risen. As we're jumping straight into draft, I'm Jay Turbo, joined alongside Graham, as we've got some unorthodox bans coming through. We're on a new patch. We've got a whole new season to start off, as we've got Today I Learned on blue and the winning formula on red.
Absolutely. Starting off, we do have the Fiora, Veigar, and Zillion bans coming on blue side. Bit of a sort of flavor picks for the winning formula on the red side there, so going to be taking those away. Poppy is actually a pretty solid pick right now, one of the most meta junglers, and is very, very strong. We'll be taking that away. Brilliant Soul is an interesting one following up, and Seraphine, of course, has become very strong and will continue to be seeing the ban table today.
Yeah, absolutely. Seraphine, one of those solid picks, has that diversity option, and Misfortune, one of the big winners out of the most recent patch, showing up first pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Before the patch, she was already like a top 5 ADC, in my opinion. After the buffs, she became absolutely insane. It already got hotfix nerf, but still is sitting at around 52% win rate, so absolute monstrosity of a champion. And speaking of another monstrosity, Hecarim has been picked up. Again, got buffed on the recent patch and has been loving the changes so far. Silas being blind picked here is a bit interesting. Misfortunal is not necessarily the greatest for him, but Silas as a champion has just proven to be very strong in the current meta, as Azir being a very typical answer in LPL and other regions, and followed by Jarvan, just a very stock standard sort of jungler that can have a bunch of early game activity.
Stock standard, you have that early game activity. Also, you can throw in the Cataclysm Bullet Time. Classic combo, can team wipe if it's perfectly executed, but still lots of team fighting options from TIL. And the winning formula looking to round out their first half of the draft with the Tristana. So, lots of damage, lots of dive coming out of the red side.
Absolutely, and the Tristana definitely is a bit thematic for the winning formula. You said a bunch of dive, but I'm not sure I quite like it in Misfortune. Tristana typically does have a strong laning phase, but throughout just all the Misfortune poke, of course the buffs have shifted away from that Emax sort of slow, go Comet, full lethality. It is still viable, and probably will still be very annoying for the Tristana, so we'll see how that lane phase works out for them, but so far both the teams are going to be coming out of the first phase of draft quite happy, as Janna will be seeing the ban table. Don't want any sort of disengage. Of course, that makes sense. A lot of the engage that they have, aside from the Hecarim multi, can be disrupted by the Janna Tornado, even by Monsoon. Yuumi has seen nerfs, in the past few patches, but we'll be meeting the ban table today. I don't think it's necessarily necessary. I think
the Tristana, it's scary. Throwing on a Hecarim, that's just charging forward, too much move speed, too much damage, especially as Hecarim's more encouraged to go that scaling route, so I can see wanting to remove that option, but I am in agreement with you that those nerfs have really stymied her ability to just impact the game. Amumu rounding out red, second ban, and just looking to get rid of that disruption.
Right, exactly. You mentioned the Yuumi Hecarim, and that's why you'd pick it. I don't think it's a good bot lane combo, but Amumu Misfortune, on the other hand, is a very good bot lane combo, and we will not be seeing that in this game, as just the Curse of the Sad Mummy being able to drop down with a bullet time can create so much zoning for the Misfortune, and so much space allows for the damage to come out. As Soraka hovered was interesting, but the Nautilus is a bit more in line with what Tristana's game plan is, so we'll expect that to be there as it does get banned away, and probably we'll see something along the lines of like a Leona. A Rel would be a bit unorthodox for the current meta, but not unheard of, as Tristana loves these champions that just go in with her and can be much more aggressive in the early game. But we'll see what they go for. Renata is a squishier option, but still fits the game plan nonetheless, and I do actually kind of like that, because when the Jarvan goes in, when the Azir goes in, you have the handshake to stop it. It does stop Jarvan flag and drag. It can stop Azir with his shifting sands, so it is actually a very, very good pick here, I think, with the handshake, but it is very skill intensive. Of course, you can also just drop loyalty program, the ult. I believe that's the ulti. Yeah, that's the ulti. But can be absolutely monstrous, as Gragas being picked up here.
Got the swaggy Graggy likely going up top side. I say likely because I have seen some Gragas supports, but
yeah, it is definitely a flex pick. It is definitely a flex pick of sorts. I do think it'll be going to the top lane, but would not be unheard of if this was to go to support. I actually do quite like Misfortune 2, still decent amount of CC, but of course, with the Pike cover, I'm assuming that it will be going top lane, as the Bard will be locked in.
I love Bard.
I love Bard.
It's just one of my favorite champs to watch, because you can just go crazy with this guy. You can deal so much damage. The roaming is fantastic, especially in a team environment. I love seeing Bard competitive just because he is fully enabled in an environment where the entire team is working together and can just go absolutely mad. Now I'm wondering what's this final response going to be. It is going to be the Maokai. We get new Maokai. I'm excited.
Yeah, so I was actually talking about this a little bit before the broadcast. Misfortune, Hecarim, and Maokai are probably the 3 big winners out of this patch, and of course, we're going to see all 3 of them in this game. This will, of course, be a Maokai top lane, and has been very, very strong into the Gragas, I imagine, especially since Gragas isn't necessarily known for being that tank-busting champion, and will be interesting to see how it plays into the rest of the game. Being able to layer the Maokai ultimate with the Renata ultimate can be quite scary, and it just allows for so much long-range initiation on addition to the Hecarim ulti, Sylas being able to dash across the map, Tristana jumping in. Do really like the dive composition that the winning formula have actually drafted for themselves on red side.
Yeah, and it's not just a pure dive composition. It's also incredibly reactive. If the J4 tries to jump in, engage with a flag and drag Cataclysm into a bullet time, you can counter engage with that loyalty program, with the Maokai ultimate, with even a Hecarim if you want to disrupt that mid to back line. I think there's a lot of options at play, and I'm really, really liking the winning formulas draft so far.
Absolutely, but looking at TIL's draft real quick, they also have quite a bit of playmaking for them with the Jarvan EQ, the Cataclysm dropping on top of it, the bullet time, sort of the original combination before Amumu support became meta. It was kind of in vain with like a Jarvan Fiddlesticks that you would see in like Season 3, where you drop the Cataclysm, they can't get out of it. Of course, not really applicable to this team comp exactly. Tristana Sylas is very mobile. Hecarim can ulti out, but other targets, the Renata is extremely vulnerable. Even the Tristana, if she can't get her reset off or if her jump gets canceled, then will be very problematic. If you don't have that flash, you will just die. So there are a lot of options for TIL, and a lot of it are just based on picks, using the Jarvan flag and drag, using the Azir shuffle, being able to get these key abilities, as even the Gragas cast can catch things out, Bard ultimate, a lot of pick tools, but they are also much harder to execute than what I think TWF has drafted. So I am kind of favoring them in this game 1, but I think both of them have very solid options in the game plan.
Yeah, I completely agree. They both have options, but that difficulty, that high difficulty of execution really coming out of TIL. The Azir, obviously one of the most mechanical champs in the game, and on top of that, the variability of the Gragas cast, if you're not really familiar with the champion, Bard's timings just being very, very awkward. So if these players are coming in with confidence and really know and understand their champions, this is going to be a fun one to watch, because it is going to be balancing those resources, balancing those engage or disengage tools, whereas on the opposite side, there's another way to respond. If there's that dive, maybe use an explosive cask defensively, or an Emperor's Divide defensively, and in the opposite, if you get engaged on with a flag and drag or a Shurima Shuffle, boom, you have the loyalty program and the Maokai and the Hecarim. So I'm excited for a brawl, hope it winds up like that.
Absolutely, and I think the key to this game is all going to be in the bot lane. There's so much utility down there, so much carry potential, the Misfortune, the Tristana, and a lot of the draft is just lining up to set up for that bot lane. Sylas, of course, can carry, but he is much more of a roaming style champion, especially in the current meta. Azir can follow him just nicely, Hecarim can gank, and you really don't want to spend that much attention towards the top side for either of these teams. If Gragas gets ahead, it doesn't really mean anything in the long run. If the Maokai gets ahead, also doesn't really mean anything. So we'll expect to see a lot of activity towards this bot side, and it does also raise some questions of why do they pick the Bard in this case, because Bard is more of a roaming style and he wants to be on the map a bit more. But if you're going to be staying towards the bot side, then it does kind of limit where the Bard can go. You can't get the chimes as fast, and you won't get to your powerful meep spikes. Of course, Bard can still set up for things. It's not necessarily limiting his own capabilities as a champion, but you know, it does kind of hinder how much Bard can impact the rest of the map.
Yeah, that's one point I hadn't even thought of recognizing that Bard wants to be moving around, and this Azir wants to follow the Sylas, but everyone just wants to centralize on that bot side. It's not going to be this dynamic lane state where you have a bruiser up topside, or have these carry junglers that you really need to enable. You have two high damage but semi-supportive junglers that are really looking to impact this bot side, with the newly buffed Misfortune leaning more into that crit emphasis, and the Tristana, who if she gets going, she gets going.
Exactly. So Again, doesn't necessarily mean that it is a bad pick. I still think it's pretty acceptable pick, and I think it's good here. But it does kind of limit how the playmaking can be done. And of course, if this is a full AP Gragas, I wouldn't expect it in this game. I think it would actually be a very bad itemization option, considering you already have Azir, which is very, very strong AP powerhouse later on in the game. You don't need that burst, so should be full tank Gragas, should be full tank Maokai. They might itemize for a Demonic Embrace, which still gives them a little bit more oomph to their abilities, but also allowing them to be tankier. So we shall see what they decide to go for here, and I'm excited to see a lot of bot lane action. It's been a while, and since we have seen a lot of activity bot lane, usually in recent metas, it's been the Zeri, Yuumi, Sivir, Lulu, things like that, where you just sit there, scale, and you eventually just run around the map with a cat attached to you. So will be very exciting. Definitely a change of pace from Pro Play, which is about 2 or 3 patches behind us. So
yeah,
will be fun to say the least.
Very, very fun. Again, we're operating on the live patch with all the new fun buffs and hot fixes, everything that you could ask for. But still, I'm also so excited for that bot lane pressure, for that bot lane priority, to see these junglers heading down bots. I get these big skirmishes running, and then let top lane be the island that it's always sort of meant to be. But we're going to really have to see how these teams approach the rest of the game, how they approach their drafts. Once we get onto the Rift, teams are locked in. We're just going to have to wait up on that spectator delay. So we'll be back in a few minutes with Game 1 of Risen Premade Dominate. You are not going to want to miss the kickoff to this season.
Like, you know where, like, the cleavage is? Where, like, the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Rax going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's gonna be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big
huge
face breaker. That's gonna be a showstopper right there. That's
can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. I have to. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with him. It's gonna get dogged.
You can go. I mean, I have flashing. A second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force guard, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get 2 of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's 2 dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win this one, guys.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
cleavages where like the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used knockdown quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Rack's going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big
huge.
face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. That's too soon, that's too soon. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with him, dude. It's gonna get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
He teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're going to burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force shot, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's going to survive on the back end of it, but they're going to be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's going to fall incredibly low. They're going to keep going in. Team Shooter is going to be able to get the root. They're going to try to find more. They're going to find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good? Okay.
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
And welcome back to week 1 of Risen Premade Dominate. We've got Today I Learned on the blue side and the winning formula on the red. As we've got some options seen in draft, some dive, some team fight, and some scattered options. But both teams not looking to do anything too crazy in these opening minutes.
No, not at all. It will be a standard 5-point. As you can see, everyone's actually perfectly lined up for it, which is always aesthetically pleasing. But looking at runes, sunrise spells, etc., it will be a phase rush Gragas here, which does tend to mean that it will be AP. I did mention that I wouldn't like it if it was 2 AP index, because you already have a lot of AP on the Azir, but we'll see what they go for. It will still end up being AP Gragas, and you will probably one-shot someone anyway, but we'll find out. Other than that, everything else is fairly stock standard. It will be Crit Misfortune through the PTA, but interesting to note that both bot laners took Exhaust rather than a typical answer for Tristana would be Cleanse, as that would be a lot of pings on the mid laner. but
A lot of pings. They just want to know that there's vision up there. That's all that they're trying to say. There's
very,
just
very true
vision
indeed.
mid
But
lane.
both the junglers will be starting on red side. As getting back to my point about the Tristana Exhaust, usually you take Cleanse because the enemy ADC will actually take Exhaust, and therefore you can cleanse the Exhaust. But again, Misfortune is a very high damage output champion, so I understand it. It's not bad. It is just an interesting take on the matchup, as lane will be starting off pretty rough. Bard taking damage, but trade it right back with a double up crit.
Exactly, getting that double up crit, and could just be a bloodbath. That's what we expected. We're talking about how these drafts both point towards really bot lane focused early to mid games and that transition out once junglers start ganking, as we've already got Kentology looking for that level 2 Jarvan gank. Arch chunked out, exhaust goes down, there's no jump available, forced to flash. Flash is passed, and first blood for the Misfortune, and make it a double. The Itchy Rat finds his kill in the sewers and gets an early 2-0 lead.
Yeah, very, very common Jarvan gank. He actually did the Krugs before he went for the gank, so let the wave kind of stabilize the midpoint a bit earlier, let them hit level 2 as mid lane here.
Yeah, now in the mid lane, Margarine, call him Butter because he's on a roll, but he's actually just Margarine. The alternative is Lee Sinners going to try and run him down, but Wild Terry tries to make his way up, but no matter how smooth that initial dash was, it wasn't enough. As now Terry could be the next one to fall, has to flash away, nearly escapes. Lee Sinners goes under tower, and it's not enough. Slow from the Meeps, actually. Kentology wants some more. Quality player in the bush, and he's looking for Wild Terry, and just gets stunned up. And that kill goes over to the Bard. As a little bit of greed from that Silas.
Yeah, a little bit too aggressive on the stay there. Tried to catch the Bard looking to ward, and I mean, most supports would do that in the case, but Jarvan actually just running straight down. He's only done 2 camps, actually, now that I look at it. It's quite literally is just stayed on the map trying to get kills. Has the 3 assists to make up for it, but will be collapsed on here in the jungle, and that could be detrimental to his game plan.
Looks like directed camp showing us the top side, though. It does appear that he's able to just walk it out, and considering the experience from all those ganks, is not too far behind the Hackerim. Both pretty even, 1 kill to 3 assists, even on the gold split. So jungle, very, very even across the board.
Yep, and will end up just going back into his jungle to clear technology. A little bit behind in terms of his clear speed, and will have some of his camps on the bot side be disproportionately spawning in terms of his top side, but he's actually just going to ignore it and go straight to the Scuttle Crab top lane. And bit of an interesting path, but of course Jarvan is one of those weird champions that loves to just get early ganks in whenever he can, so that's where most of his gold and XP will come from rather than actually clearing the jungle.
Player style, make it work, is now Arch. Bit of an XP lead, despite that early first blood and the item disadvantage. Some decent lane control picked up by the duo of the winning formula, as I'm just waiting for the next explosive opportunity, and now it might just be here. Terry lands the stun, but just out of range is Itchy Rat on the Misfortune, and will not be able to finish off that kill.
Yeah, a little bit of an aggressive walk up from the Renata. It was a good stun from the Bard, though, recognizing the minions walking up as well, and we'll take about half, maybe 75% of their health bar for it. And I mean, the pickaxe on the Misfortune at well before 5 minutes into the game, absolutely brutal for this laning phase, as kind of can't do anything. And as a Tristana here, they just kind of wait for the wave to push in, and they'll be able to respond to it. Of course, Tristana as a champion can't freeze, so that'll end up at the Misfortune's end at some point, another an hour later, but they will appreciate whatever CS that they can get in the time being.
Certainly will. As honestly, I'm more impressed than anything, keeping up, staying within 5s in the top side.
Yeah.
Zahair looking to try and punish Sign Me Up, but that XP lead will mean the Gragas has no real options. His tier picked up, whether that's going to be a Fimbulwinter or a Rod, we'll have to see. An Archangels, excuse me. As Arch once again getting pressure in this bot side, it's just real rough out here for the winning formula. Not really winning outside of the top lane.
No, not at all. And of course, the top lane isn't necessarily where you want to be winning, as we said in draft. Of course, the Maokai being ahead does help substantially. Being able to get his tank items earlier will allow him to be a better frontline for their carries, but without damage, the carries don't really use the front line that well. They needed a bit more time, so hopefully they'll be able to sort of revive the bot lane that isn't necessarily dead by any means, but is certainly falling behind.
Completely agree with that. Is starting to fall behind. Managing to stay up on CS, taking advantage of a couple timers, but still that early gold lead, the Noon Quiver pickaxe, is such a tough lead to try and play into.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Tristana is just getting their first back in. Of course, they got the refillable off of their death, but we'll pick up the Noon Quiver is still a solid at least 900 gold down on the Misfortune. And at 7 minutes into the game, you're definitely going to feel that, especially as someone like Tristana who wants to get that early lead, get that early pressure because they want to threaten the all-ins. Can't do that if you're behind that much gold. But whoa.
Oh, some interesting interaction up in the top side off of that newly buffed cube. Plenty of damage coming down onto Zohair, but again, no harm, no foul. Just keeping that island going. But that CS lead continuing to grow as it's almost reached up to 30 in the top side. Not where you want to have a lead again, as you mentioned, but still, that Maokai getting tankier means that Tristana will have a little bit more space to work with. That Silas have a little more space to work with, and sometimes that's the difference between a won fight and a lost fight.
Yeah, I think actually that Maokai Q is a bit of a bug. I believe there are certain conditions where it actually becomes just a random direction knockback. I don't know the specifics of it, but didn't quite look right to me. Either way, will not really end up mattering as top lane will continue to be pushed in by this Maokai. And I mean, the game has sort of stabilized. There hasn't been much action going on for the past 4 minutes, so definitely does favor the team that is in the lead already. Of course, that gold difference across the team is actually closed up to only 300. It was at about, I believe, 700, 800 at some point, but
at one point.
I believe so, yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll end up closing that, probably because of the top lane CS difference, but all in here.
No, on the bot side, Arch just not enough, and does get that little baby revive. Nowhere near enough damage to find a takedown. But Final Ninja will not go down, so just 1 kill, a few flashes burned, and a lot of summoners across the board.
Absolutely, and that will most certainly be a dragon if they don't choose to dive this.
And
But we'll get a kill anyway, and then they'll turn onto the dragon, or maybe not.
take a plate. Dragon's still in their sights. Want to give this Misfortune as much gold as possible. K-Technology is going to start up that Drake, and all things looking up for TIL.
Yeah, speaking of looking up though, Hecarim is positioning for a top lane gank here. Looks like the wave will get thinned out. The Gragas kind of needs to burn his ulti here to clear the wave. Not get all of it though.
Not getting all of it will mean this Gragas likely goes down. Actually, Lee Sinner's final tower shot will be enough. 1 for 1. Zohair able to find something out of nothing.
Yeah, very, very clutch phase rush proc there, allowing him to run away. Forces the Hecarim ulti out of it too, which is massive, and still gets the kill. So overall, it was a fairly even trade. Of course, we'll miss this next wave here, and we'll give some tower plates over to the Maokai. But overall, well played from Zohair.
Very well played. Showing some of those Gragas skills, and is going to be going more of that AP route. Has picked up the Lost Chapter, likely towards an Everfrost, or if you really want to get spicy, get that Ludens. But expect it to go towards the Everfrost is in the mid lane, neutral game state as well. And considering how far behind the winning formula's bot lane is, where do you think they go from here? How do you think they try and get back into this game, looking towards the mid game?
I think the best outcome that they could actually wish for is something with the Hecarim Silas forming sort of a two-man roam squad and just catching random picks as Jarvan tries to make plays, as maybe the Bard is trying to roam up to get some vision, get some chimes, and just try to get gold off of that way, because the Tristana is in no state to actually carry this game at this point. So trying to get the Silas or the Hecarim, who are already decently ahead, I mean, Silas is technically behind his lane opponent, but does have a quite large amount of gold and can end up being quite substantial, and will set up nicely for the Hecarim as potential dive here. I don't know if it will work on the mid lane, but he will just walk away instead.
Certainly looking at it, but with K-Technology being so close, does make it a little bit awkward. No invade possible. Looks like Lee Sinners, with now no resources really on Zohair, is trying to get this dive again. They've got the roots, but there's also the explosive cask. Better timing as far as getting the aggro. Sign me up, able to alternate with Lee Sinners, and that'll be a clean dive top side, and Rift Herald for red side's taking.
Yeah, it's actually a very good usage of that mechanic there. Didn't engage using the W at first, and instead chose a tank tower using the ulti, drop damage down, and then switch aggro as the kill is dropping, and so you can walk out with ease.
Bard ultimate used, but that loyalty program acts as a response, and now Terry just caught out, gets killed by the Buster Shot, and now Marjorie and Gatenology, they're competent in rocking a hard place, but don't shove the enemy team into your Tristana, as now Sign Me Up finds his way bot side, did teleport to tower, but with the team dead already, it'll just be a cleanup for Itchy Rat and Margarine, and Zohair comes in to steal that last kill, uses his teleport, and now this should be bot tower getting weakened up, and what was really forced and figured out by the winning formula gets completely turned by Today I Learned.
Yeah, it was looking so good, but the key difference there was that Hecarim was not in that fight. He was doing Rift Herald the entire time, and of course, will end up getting a bunch of plates mid, but with Hecarim there, that is your main carry at this stage in the game. He is extremely ahead of the Jarvan item-wise, and without them, they were not only at a number disadvantage, but they also weren't really good with the numbers that they had. They didn't have the gold to actually compete with that, so once the Jarvan kind of showed up, and I mean, the Azir ultis were both a bit wide. I don't think either of them hit, if I remember correctly, but
the Silas one shoved 2 players into the Tristana, so that was a little awkward.
yeah, either way, without the Hecarim there's no real fights that could actually end up be winning for TWF, but either way, they did manage to collect some amount of gold there, and they did go fairly even on the trade, so you have to take what it is, considering that you were the ones in the losing position here.
Exactly. It's now going to be a matter of whether or not winning formula can slow down this game or play towards their strength. Now, Lee Sinners has the Triforce, is really fully enabled, whereas in that bot side, Arch still lacking their first mythic. In contrast, Itchy Rat already has the Kraken and Boots. Now, Zohair caught on an awkward rotate. Now just might be targeted and collapsed on by quality player in Lee Sinners. Oh, the root catches him even through the body slam. And now quality players has the explosive cask, fires it away, and Sign Me Up for another kill, says the top laner.
Yeah, not quite sure what Zohair was actually doing there. It looked like he was going to place the pink ward down by the red with where Hecarim was, as we can see on the map, but ended up getting caught as he walked back to lane, as nothing will quite result bot lane, but mid lane.
Mid lane, Lee Sinners opts to go for it, does have the ultimate, but really is just very, very squishy. Sign Me Up so far away, there's no front line, but quality player keeps it going. Arch stays alive, Arch might make it work, but Itchy Rat, too much health, too much damage, and there will be a trade coming out, and we've got some supportal combat. The final ninja not strong enough. Wild Terry trying to make it work. The Winions onto Terry. The final auto doesn't land, and the final ninja will really need to sneak his way out. Quality player and final ninja somehow both stay alive as Margarine goes down, and the dragon may be up for the winning formula's taken, but oh, what a series of events.
Yeah, quite a dramatic change there. The bot lane, of course, picking up a kill onto the Tristana, but as the support's trying to duel it out, the Renata, of course, was going to be winning out in the end with the minions on her side, walks up. It looked like Margarine didn't quite order his abilities right. If he instead flashed first and then WQE, would have ended up getting the kill there, but of course allows Renata to live. And even with the W up and Silas there, it's actually uncertain if he would have even secured the killer if the revive would have gone off. So overall, very, very sloppy play from Margarine, but shouldn't end up amounting to too much here. Of course, now will close the gap a little bit more, as now it's looking like the Gragas is winning here.
Oh, it certainly does. He's underestimating the damage, but Sign Me Up just uses that Maokai passive, sucks up a bunch of HP, and Zohair's combo couldn't quite get him over the edge. Is bit of a setup for Drake. Terry stepping a little too far forward, finds the Hecarim in the bush, and does manage to find a stun. Not going to be enough. Force take a magical journey away, but now Gatenology just separated, and quality player keeps him in his own Cataclysm as Terry falls on the back side. And it seems that the red side, after a really rough early game, has managed to transition this, and maybe they've put together that winning formula. It's the only time I'm going to use it today.
You got to get the obligatory one in there, but yeah, it was a very good pick.
You just gotta.
Yeah, very good pick in the pixel bush there, waiting for the Bard to go, or even the Jarvan to come place a ward, someone, and just turning on them immediately, getting 2 picks there, and of course translating that into the Mountain Dragon.
Finding that Mountain Drake is going to be the second neutral objective that winning formula have been able to find. First one, of course, being that Rift Herald. As now, Lee Sinners might just get caught out. Bard ulti goes wide. Quality player having to escape, and the pony is just barely able to prance away. But in the bot side, Arch and Final Ninja looks like they may be able to pick up this tower, but the rotate's a little too quick. Ichirat and Wild Terry just waiting for their opportunity. We've got a teleport, though. Arch jumps away. Terry finds Final Ninja, but quality player does have that Bard ulti, does have the stasis, does opt to use it, only finds 2. The chains do not land. Katenology will lock him in place, but the Zonias means that Arch is able to answer one back.
Yeah, we'll trade 2 for 1 there on the red side play. It was the red side that tried to initiate there, but the key difference there was that the Renata was not able to drop her ulti before she died. She couldn't even get the revive off on her, and will end up going the side of TIL. But a little bit interesting itemization here, as I've just noticed. It will be the Leandries coming out for the Gragas, as we'll have to stop my tirade here.
The Leandries, not exactly the option we were expecting, and I don't think Margin was expecting that much damage in the bot side. Quick little dive onto the Azir tower. Zohair really opting for that more old school burn style, but does leave you without a clear identity. You don't get as much lockdown as you would with the Everfrost, and you're lacking the same amount of burst you may have from Eluden, so instead, just riding that line.
Exactly, and it is fine. I mean, it does help him versus the 1v1 in the Maokai situation. It doesn't necessarily help Peel for things like the Sylas, the Tristana, and lock him down like an Everfrost would, but I digress. The other thing I noticed is that Hecarim is actually not going for the Muramana build, which is more of the standard one. Instead, he's going Triforce into Death's Dance, which I think is going to be completely fine. Not saying it's wrong, but it is atypical. You usually see that Manamune come out with Divine Sunder, but in this game, I mean, there's not many tanks that you're really running through, so the Divine Sunder doesn't really do much in terms of actual value, so I can understand that completely. Kind of like it a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really like this approach as well, because you're still getting that damage, but instead is recognizing you need to have that survivability in these fights. You need to be able to perform that drain tank role, because while, yes, you are a pseudo carry, there's no tanks, and you just need to be able to survive all of this damage that is going to be coming out, especially with an AP Gragas. That's another source that you're going to have to survive your way through.
Exactly. Looking at game plans here, though, Dragon is spawning in 2 minutes now, so we'll expect that red side was going to be setting up for that. As you can see, already have plenty of wards down by the bot side there, and maybe potentially a collapse on the Azir, but the recall is going to go through, so nothing too major. But I want to see blue side try to actually contest the vision here and try to clear and make their way in, because the Dragon stacking on a Hextech Soul is extremely dangerous, especially for the high damage composition that they have, with Tristana, Sylas, and Hecarim being able to utilize that Soul extremely effectively. So I do want to see them contesting these Dragons. And of course, it's only the second Dragon for TWF, so not necessarily a super important one, but at some point they do have to pull the trigger and say that enough is enough.
That they will. I saw the pings towards the top side, and I was honestly a little concerned and excited that it might be a 20-minute Baron rush, but instead it's just going to be another dive onto Zohair. But it seems that instead, this time TIL, they're reading the play, they're sending members top side, and while there's lots of players, nothing's really happened quite yet, as Lee Sinners looking for an opportunity to turn on to Terry. Magical Journey means that there will not be any more severe shenanigans for the moment, as Unstoppable, that Onslaught of Shadows looking forward, finds Wild Terry, now first kill onto Lee Sinners. Another one soon to follow onto Katenology. Ichirat looking to try and take down the Hecarim, but instead, that survival from the Renata will come through. Margarine on the back line, trying to do what he can. Lee Sinners very, very low, but somehow still standing and actually looking for more, potentially, as quality player now has the Gragas, has the Explosive Cast, gets the Jarvan, enables Arch, and the crit will be enough. It's 4 down already, and Zohair trying not to be the 5th. Arch dove a little too far, but it will be the ace for the winning formula, as they have really started to figure it out. But there wasn't really anything they were fighting over, so perhaps the top lane will fall in. Oh no, Terry. That was a very hopeful Hexgate, but indeed actually will survive, but was forced to use resources. Still a splash. It's all said that this is a bait, and Lee Sinners just baited himself all the way into base, as that'll be an 800 gold shutdown onto Ichirat. So we'll just.
I don't know what to
leave
make
it
of
to
that
escalate.
Hecarim part, but the rest of that was actually really interesting because the big difference between the blue side and red side here is that Azir had teleport early, Sylas did not, and even despite that, they're still able to collect a very solid fight up on the top side. However, the Hecarim going through the mid tower there does end up mean that this Hextech Dragon will go towards TIL, and that is quite huge, honestly, because they also have very high damage, and it puts them closer to that Hextech Soul, which has always been strong since its release, and we'll continue to show why in this game, assuming we get to that point. Of course, no team really seems like they're going to be losing anytime soon, as Bartleby comes down.
It comes down, Terry's just really trying to play that nuisance bard, but it's going a little too far forward. Does wind up getting taken out, as that'll mean no more chimes being collected on the map for at least another 30 seconds. As with this game state, we've seen this go from TIL crushing the early game through the bot side to now the complete flip happening. The winning formula starts to play through their Hecarim. They start to find these advantageous fights and are now with a 2k gold lead where they had been, 1 to 2k behind early on.
Yeah, it is definitely led to some interesting fights, and neither side really ends up super ahead on these fights. Sure, we saw that TWF won that fight top side earlier on, but because Hecarim overextended, it allowed for the dragon to actually occur in the favor of TIL, so there's always some type of exchange here, and it's never been a complete wipe of one side where now the other team has an extreme advantage because they just won. They're either way too low or they didn't quite get enough of an advantage where they can pressure any sort of objective, as Bard getting caught out once again, but the magical journey does mean that not really as impactful, but looks like TWF for the time being is going to be taking their home towards the topside jungle of TIL, and looks like they want to try and set up for a sneaky Baron play if they find a pick here.
Potentially could, as notable items, Zohair has picked up the Archangels, and for Itchy Rat, does have the Bloodthirster, the Kraken, and is building towards that Infinity Edge, so soon to have that 3-item power spike, and similar itemization from Arch, that Gale Force, PD, and now also towards the IE. Just lots of these 2-item power spikes where all of these champions want to live, want to exist in, as actually, this could just be a Baron call. It is! Straight out of the blue side, straight out of TIL.
Not sure I like this. It doesn't look like they're keeping track of Sylas's TP that much, because he will be able to just back and teleport in, but this is being burst too fast.
It's going down real quick. We'll see if there's a steal. There is the steal! Lee Sinners finds it, and now what was initially called but was snuck away by TIL is going the opposite way. Itchy Rat keeps the fight even, but watch Arch. You've got to see how that Tristana pops off when she's enabled, and now the Misfortune who crushed the early game will be the last to fall in this fight as an ace. A triple for Arch, an ace for the winning formula, and a Baron stolen away by Lee Sinners.
Yeah, super aggressive Baron attempt there from TIL. They thought with Sylas battling they could sneak it. Didn't even end up mattering. The Renata ulti over the wall with the Hecarim ended up being a bit too much pressure, and the smite goes over to the Hecarim. Even if they do get the Baron, I'm not sure that they even win that fight with the Sylas teleport coming in. Would have been very, very hard to deal with, and overall, just a massive win for TWF.
And we just saw an explosion of a lead. It was, about 2k gold before? We've gone up to about 8, as now Final Ninjas jumped on by K-Technology, but lacking damage, and Sign Me Up is here and brings some percentage damage. Terry trying to do what he can. Final Ninja does manage to stay alive, will get that takedown and somehow survive. Zohair looking for more, but is going to be met on the wrong side of a blaster as Arch brings the damage necessary. 2 more kills go the way of the winning formula.
Yeah, very, very weird attempt on a pick there. Of course, thought that the Renata was alone, but of course there's never an alone player in a competitive game. It's always going to be someone somewhere next to them, but Inhibitor will go down quite fast as the Inhibitor will follow suit. With Margarine pushing in the bot lane, there's no real way for TIL to actually answer this, as they will just transition up to the top tower and just look to make this a very clean ending of the game process.
Yeah, they're trying to end it cleanly. Looks like Margarine does want to play for some sort of flank, do some kind of skewer where there's no Renata, there's no loyalty program. So look for the engagement, K-Technology, there's no follow-up, there's no answer. As the bullet time is committed, the Onslaught of Shadows shuts it down, and now here comes the loyalty program. It goes completely wide, but there's just too much damage coming out of the winning formula. Margarine does what he can, quality player, finds the final kill. It's a triple for the Silas, as the bot laners who struggled early will be the ones to finish things off. In 27 minutes, the winning formula have figured it out.
Yeah, very, very well played from TWF to actually bring that back from the early game deficit that they had. It wasn't necessarily a big deficit, but it was quite substantial for the time period that it was at. The 1k gold lead at around 5 minutes was kind of crushing for a lot of teams, but of course they kept fighting, they found ways, and they found picks to actually bring themselves back into the game. And I mean, overall, it was just really good decision-making on the part of TWF, but rather poor decision-making from TIL in those key moments.
It does honestly come down to that decision-making, to how you understand your stage of the game. What are your win conditions? And quite honestly, it was Lee Sinners finding those opportunities topside against Zohair, converting that into some neutral pressure and finding opportunities to get Arch back into the game. As went from, I believe, 1-4 to 10-5. That is just a fantastic comeback and really does just show that team pressure. As I'm looking towards, honestly, TIL. Their early game was fantastic. Now it's going to be about shoring up that mid game. Looking forward in this series.
Exactly. I don't think that necessarily either of these drafts were bad. I don't think there was any deficit in regarding that, but I do think that the transition to the mid game for TIL was really rocky and didn't really showcase that they had an idea of what they wanted to do, an idea of their decision making, and they kept getting picked, they kept getting caught when they tried to set up for objectives, and they really need to shore out a lot of those weaknesses in this game too, so that they can sort of come back and use that early game advantage that they had in game one and actually carry it through the rest of the game.
Yeah, it is going to be, can they find that transition? Can they find those options? Or instead, are the winning formula going to stick with that formula and carry it into a clean 2-0 sweep in week one? It looked tight, and we'll have to see if it'll stay that way. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick around.
Like, you know where, like, the cleavage is? Where, like, the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used knock on quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Rax going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big
huge
face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's Eve. That's too soon, that's too soon. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with blue. It's gonna get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god! He teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force dive, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win this move five.
Nice.
Oh maybe
my
they don't.
God. Get it, get it, get it, get it!
Like, you know where like the cleavage is, where like the boobs touch, or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Rax going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's gonna be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's gonna be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike D. Ask Station. Nice. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the pentagon too. You ever know? You can't die with this. Don't get dogged.
You can go. I mean, I have flashing. A second.
Oh my god! Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force dive, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win this move five.
Nice.
Oh maybe
my
they don't.
God. Get it, get it, get it, get it!
And welcome back to Risen Premade Dominate, as we're once again jumping straight into draft with TWF on the blue side this time round and TIL on the red, wanting to switch things up. As we saw in last game, TIL had a strong early game, but TWF brought it back in the mid game. We'll have to see if right here from starting at the draft, things will change up.
Yeah, so far, bans have more or less stayed the same. The Yuumi is making it into the first rotation of bans this time. Interesting to note that TWF is banning their own Silas, meaning that they're not going to first pick it, and they have a fair amount of confidence that it will be picked within the first rotation for TIL, so a little bit of adaptation. Other than that, Misfortune is on the ban table, Hecarim is also on the ban table, so we will see probably very different comps from Game 1.
Very, very different. Already, a couple of those power picks that we discussed in last game getting removed as the Udyr hovered. I don't know about first pick blue side, but I wouldn't mind seeing an Udyr around the block. And we do get the Sivir, makes a lot more sense. Putting some safety into Arch's hands. I like this.
Yeah, Udyr would have been fun, but Sivir is most certainly the better blue side pick in first rotation, so we will see that come out. Of course, Sivir did get hit with nerfs this patch, actually, and her win rate did drop a little bit. I still think she's in a solid position. Of course, we'll always have the ultimate, which can just absolutely carry fights for certain teams. Zilean locked in as the answer. Now, this can go, I believe, in Zilean mid, and can be quite an influential pick depending on what is drafted around it. So I'm not too sure they want the Zilean to be coming in at this stage in the draft, maybe on R3, but we'll end up just picking the Udyr up here instead.
I'm loving this. I love the Udyr.
This is fun.
I'm excited. For one, I just like Udyr as a champ. He's simple, Bear Slap. Now we don't have Bear Slap. We have Orange Slap. I think that's just the continuation of things. The elevation of it, if you will. And this is going to be a fast Ornn Slap with the Zilean on top of it. So already liking some of the dive coming out of TIL.
Yeah, let it be known that I do think that this is probably going to be an Udyr top lane. Although it could be flexed to jungle or top lane either way, but did see a lot of Udyr players on both of these rosters in the top lane, so we might be able to see something a bit spicy there, as the Akali lock-in can also flex between top and mid. Usually nowadays it can come towards the mid side, to the mid lane, but I do believe that there are some Akali top lane players in here, so we will see where that goes. But for now, 2 flex picks being picked up for both these teams, and we'll wait on this as the Kayn lock-in just as a standard jungler. Bit of an interesting one, double assassins. Of course, Kayn can go for more bruisery with red Kayn, but at his heart, it's still a more aggressive pick once he gets that form. So interesting to see. They have the Sivir engage so far with the ultimate that can just allow them to run people down. So the lack of engage for these assassins isn't really concerning to me. They just have a bunch of move speed.
They have the move speed. They can absolutely run you down. So I'm on the same page as you. I don't mind it. Oh, we see the Nyla hover. We see the Nyla locked in. There's some spice. As I was just going to comment on how I really hope this Kayn doesn't go blue. I still hold to that sentiment, but the Nyla is the thing that we should talk about now.
Yeah, so Nyla has been an interesting champion since her release. It has been a lot of ups, mostly downs since she got hotfixed in her first patch, but she is still pretty good with certain bot lane duos. One of the most notable ones is Taric, being able to just absolutely dominate and crush the lane with it. Don't know if we'll see it in this one, but usually she wants to have some type of enchanter with her to get that extra healing, to get that extra shielding, and also just keep her topped up, because she will be poked down a lot, especially versus Sivir in lane phase. So, bit interesting that they chose to lock it in R3 with no idea of what their support will be, as the Taric is banned away. It could be Zilean, but I'm not a big fan of that combination personally. I feel like it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't, in sort of that weird middle ground where it's not completely synergistic, but isn't also like completely unsynergistic in a sense. But the Taric will be taken away, so are definitely scared of that duo, and this is kind of why I'm not too big on this being picked R3, other than it's fun, because 2 supports can be banned away, and your duos will get worse and worse as the ban phase goes along.
It's very true. Besides the Taric, honestly, I was going to say who else? The Soraka, another enchanter banned away. The Lulu and Yuumi already taken off the table.
Sona is the next one that kind of pops in mind.
I was going to say, yeah, there's Sona and Seraphine, but...
Yeah. Nami could also work. They did just get nerfed with the electrocute interaction, but Renata will be the lock-in either way.
So we're going to get the Renata instead. will have a little bit of that healing, will have the ability, some of that revive potential. 2 conditional revives already on TIL, so that'll be something to watch out for in these fights. But now in response, you see the bot lane, there's still some flexibility in the remaining picks for TIL. So to round this out, do you just go solid? Do you just go a bunch of damages? We see the Lux. I assume that's going to the bot lane, unless this is an Akali top.
I do believe that will actually be a Lux support. I believe Ninja does play a lot of Lux support, so I would expect that to go down there. It also is pretty good into a melee bot laner like Nyla, and we just can poke out with the E, so don't expect it to go there. As the LeBlanc locked in, I'm not sure I like this. That's a lot of AP. A lot of assassins. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm big on that pick, actually, especially into a Zilean Renata composition. I don't know if you want 3 assassins into that, but we shall see. That is also a lot of AP burst damage. So I'm not liking TWF's comp so far, but we'll see what TIL locks in here for game number 2 as the final pick of the draft.
Yeah, this is certainly a if you get going, you will get going. But with Sejuani and Udyr and Zilean, this is going to be very, very tough to cut through. And honestly, we're still with some flexibility because both Udyr and Sejuani have that top jungle capability. So very intrigued to see where this ends up. I think that Zohair is more of a Sejuani player than an Udyr player, but who knows? It could go anywhere. I'm excited. It's going to be very, very fun, but it really is just big frontline plus a Nyla versus assassins and a Sivir.
Exactly. So it is definitely a flex pick. The Udyr Sejuani, I don't think it necessarily matters which goes where. I think both Sejuani and Udyr are going to do fine into the Akali. I don't really think that terrible matchups. Maybe Sejuani is probably better just because inherently tankier. But either way, I do actually really like the Sejuani on R5 here because one notable thing about Sejuani is that she loves to play with other melee champions because of her passive. Things like Udyr and the Nyla, she can help run them down with slows and their stun, and also help them apply more stuns to different champions. So I do like the Sejuani here. I think it's a very creative way to round out the draft. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have a lot of damage, because I mean, the Zilean Udyr Nyla isn't necessarily the heaviest damage of a core, but if they are ahead, Udyr can pump out quite a bit of damage with a bunch of his AP ratios on his ulti. Nyla, of course, if she's ahead, then can do quite a bit of damage as well, but we shall see. On the other hand, though, TWF, I would say, has too much damage on their team, and not enough everything else.
I completely agree. There's just not very much peel. There is a go button, but there's no escape button. And regardless of how much mobility you have, Sejuani lands one auto on you. Boom, you can get stunned. If you're anywhere near the Bola shot, you're going to be slowed up. If Zilean looks at you and he has his E up, you are never escaping and you're way too squishy to try and survive. There's just so many really tough scenarios. Not to mention, if you get hit with the Renata loyalty program, your entire team is just going to get shredded by your Sivir.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely can work in theory. I see the angle. Sivir can provide a lot of engage for the Akali and the Kayn to just run into the enemy team, but again, it comes into the question of who are you actually killing on this team? The most clear answer is either the Nyla or the Zilean, but are those necessarily impactful enough picks that you can actually then win the fight after you have burned everything for that kill? I don't necessarily think that either of those kills are really going to change the game plan that much. I still think that the 4v5 would be favorable, especially since a pick on this team would mean that you're going through Zilean ulti, you're going through Renata W, you're trying to go through Nyla W to block a lot of the auto attacks with Sivir ricochets, and there's so many what-ifs in this composition that the TWF has, and I don't necessarily think that they have many ways to actually play the game if they aren't like 5k gold ahead at 15 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. If these assassins are not starting to pop off and continue to pop off, it's going to be really, really tough, because Udyr is going to get Sunfire, Demonic Embrace, and Spirit Visage, and no one's going to kill him, and he's going to kill everyone on TWF.
Right, exactly.
One stun on the Akali, one stun on the LeBlanc, one stun on the Lux. They're dead. they're dead.
Yeah, exactly. The only like concern that I do have is that TIL does lack a lot of damage, and that can make it so that the Udyr bear slaps don't necessarily net in kills, and they can kind of just walk out. They do have a lot of mobility on a lot of their carries. The Akali, Kayn, LeBlanc, all are just highly mobile. So one Udyr slap doesn't necessarily mean that a kill is present, but it sets up sort of a follow-up fight or a follow-up stun from Sejuani, and it does provide way too many questions of how does TWF actually play out a lot of these 5v5s, and I think the answer is they don't. They kind of have to play more skirmish heavy and try to look for just scrappy fights here and there where it's not just a death ball that they're going for, but we'll have to see how they play it out.
We are going to have to see how they play it out. I'm hoping that we see some Udyr clockwork bombs. He gets juiced up, gets a bear slap, and I'm still calling it bear slap. I know it's an orange slap. I'm going to call it a bear slap. I've been playing this game since 2014. And we're going to have to see if the Udyr and the Sejuani will be able to bring the force of the Freljord for TIL to extend this series, or if the winning formula can figure something out with 3 assassins and a Sivir ulti. We're going to see it right after this quick break as we let that spec delay happen. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick around.
Like, you know where, like, the cleavage is? Where, like, the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Rax going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's gonna be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's gonna be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's Eve. That's too soon, that's too soon. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with him, dude. It's gonna get dog.
You can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god! Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force guard, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get 2 of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's 2 dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. Yes, go.
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win this one, guys.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
cleavages where like the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. First Rack's going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. That's too soon, that's too soon. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with him, dude. Don't get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god! Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force shot, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. Okay.
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
Is it in-game or in-game in
And welcome back to Premade Dominate, as we're just working through a few technical issues. But we're in game now. We've got the Spirit Guard Udyr of Wild Terry gracing the Rift, as we'll have to see whether Team Tanks or Team Assassins will be able to come out on top.
Yeah, very much so. Will be a standard 5 point once again here, so no spicy invades happening. There's not really much setup or damage, depending on what side you're looking at, as a little poke coming through here. Bit rude, but...
Oh, looks like a bit more than some poke, as Gatenology running towards his bot lane. Now it's just turning into a bit of a mid lane scrap fest as Final Ninja finds the double root. Lee Sinners looking to find some of that form. Gatenology just one auto away from dying, and First Blood goes over to the Kane, as Ichirat looks to be next on the chopping block, but Lee Sinner stays alive. Margarine finds a kill, looking for more. The Final Ninja finds a second. Can't find the third, as it's a 2 for 2 across the board.
Well, it's been a while since we've casted a 1 minute 5v5 in mid lane, but we'll end up being even trade of kills there. In all clarity, I mean, technically blue side did in fact get the First Blood there onto Lee Sinners for the Kane, but won't really amount to much, as Nyla will be entering lane 2-1, but we'll only have boots and a dagger to really speak towards it, as won't really be this. Will be kind of the same story for the Kane here, only starting off with an extra boot for his clear, so won't really impact the early game too much. The items are just more nice luxury items, not really something like a longsword that can make or break certain trades, so will end up being relatively harmless in that early game.
Relatively harmless, but does give some of that leeway to just go full on towards those aggressive options, as Margarine now in the bot side struggling as Arch again. It's that pressure that the Sivir can offer, is top side Zohair certainly going at the very least even with Sign Me Up, who does no longer have access to that ignite, so a little bit less kill pressure, but still that poke will be something to keep in mind, as there were 2 kills on the Nyla. Doesn't have a ton of aggressive stats, but once we start to creep into that level 3, level 4 range, do you think there's a chance that this bot lane starts to shift, or is it really just going to be stay alive till 6?
It could be. The extra movement speed on the boots does mean that Nyla running down the Sivir does become a little bit easier, although Sivir with her passive is innate move speed, but looks like we'll find out.
Innate move speed is Margarine already running forward, looking for more damage. Arch forced to flash away already, and now just a couple more autos, and that final one will find it, as the dodge onto Final Ninja's attacks, and no ignite available for Ichirat, but instead Lee Sinners just wants to clean house as the Renata goes down, and the Nyla is soon to follow. A shutdown, as this Kane's got a lot of Foreman. Quality player flashing. Not sure about that, but taking a step back, Lee Sinners with Ghost, with Conqueror, and with 3 kills is going to look very, very scary on this Kane.
Very much so, and I mean, as you asked it, your question was answered. There was a third party, so that's the answer to the solution there. But in all seriousness, the Nyla was able to just run people down with the boots, with the extra boots mobility, so it does end up making quite a bit of difference there. As didn't mention this at the start, but it is in fact Sejuani top Udyr jungle. You mentioned the flex, but could end up being a kill here.
Might be. Wild Terry did not opt to use the empowered Ornn form for that bonus move speed and the unstoppable. They're not committing too many resources up top side to try and kill the Akali. As Zohair just going to take a reset here with some help from the jungle. As beyond the bot lane, it's been pretty quiet across the map outside of quality player just flashing in the mid lane for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. And as a note, with the extra kills, they will be going for the Serrated Dirk on the Kane. Now, I do think that this is still going to be red Kane, simply because they took Conqueror, and usually Conqueror on blue Kane isn't ever the greatest, but I believe this will actually be a Prowler's Claw build for the red Kane here. I'm not a big fan of it, but looks like I won't be able to talk about it.
It certainly could be. We'll have time after Margarine keeps trying to run down Arch, but Ichirat has been taking so much auxiliary damage as that Sivir again. She's not blocked by the person in front of her. That boomerang blade, those bouncing blades continue to kill outside. So 1 for 1 again in the bot side.
Yeah, very much so. This Nyla is a bit unleashed here, as the early kills will allow her to play a bit more aggressively in the lane. And I mean, this trade up top lane so far has been looking Sejuani favored, aside from level 2. But of course, third parties changed this game.
Third party does change the game, as now up to 4-1. You said this team would need to snowball, and at the very least one member is starting to do so.
Very much so, and I'd argue that that is probably the most important member to snowball, because the Akali, the Lux, and the LeBlanc will all be kind of ruined if they just build Mercury treads on the side of TIL. So having this AD threat that has become quite problematic at just 6 minutes into the game will make it feel a little bit more awkward to buy those Mercury treads, because even though it still is good, the Kayn will still just manage to one-shot you, and you don't have the defense from the Ninja Tabis that you actually want.
Yeah, Ninja Tabis doesn't grant that much defense from a blue Kayn's combo, or even a red Kayn who's just enabled early in with a Prowler's Claw or an Eclipse, as K-Technology does get shut down and poked out. Electrocute, just for a little bit more poke, quality player, trying to keep him in lane as long as possible, keep that CS lead up, but now we're just waiting for that next major moment, as Sign Me Up hit level 6, looking for Zohair, but just chunking him out instead. Terry does get rooted up. Lee Sinners is coming in, and that root may be just enough. The slow to try and gain some space, or the smite, excuse me, and doesn't wind up happening as just a trade of summoners in the mid lane.
That was actually really smart from Lee Sinners. Wasn't quite fast enough with it, but he smited the minion to hit level 6, tried to rank up the ultimate in time to actually be able to ult Wild Terry on the Udyr, try to get the kill, but was not fast enough to do it, was out of range.
Quite quick enough. Those really tight moments where it is just that one minion of experience that could make or break a fight certainly made it that Wild Terry could escape. Now looking towards that bot side, neither jungler taken much priority of the neutral objectives, so we will have to see whether those may be the next point of contention. On the bot side, no exhausts, just an ignite up for Itchy Rat. That will likely be the next point of contention, as we're already seeing some resources at bot side from the winning formula.
Yeah, we'll see a little bit of a trade here. Getting pretty dangerous for Zohair, low on health, low on mana. We'll have to take the reset, but trading on technology. Pretty nice from the LeBlanc. It is all fun and games with the LeBlanc in this matchup until you try to kill him. So that is when it starts becoming less fun, but until then, you'll happily take half his health bar all day. But of course, the Zilean has the ultimate now. It's level 7, and any fights around this will now be decided by the press of that button. And if he is very, very good at it, then it will end up changing the course of certain fights and probably the course of the game at certain stages. So we'll have to look out for the timing on it and who he decides to actually press ulti on.
We'll have to see. It's going to be that targeting, that target priority. Whether it's going to be carry, as Zohair has just been really put down after that gank, as now Lee Sinners is just taking away Terry's jungle, is just trying to stay alive, trying to use his empowered forms, and will get resurrected, but still there's so much damage. Doesn't seem to be enough. But it will be a nice chunk of red form for Lee Sinners, but Terry, why are you walking so close to the wall? You're just making yourself a walking target. As now, Terry actually doesn't go down. Blue Smite to survive, and now is chasing, finds the orange stun, stays alive off the shield. Lee Sinners somehow finds the kill. That red buff burn will be enough, as now quick transition to bot side. Loyalty program spell shielded away, but Margarine still trying to find Arch. Will not be nearly enough, as ultimates traded across the bot lane.
Yeah, the extra just life gain from the Udyr there, saving him just a little bit, allowing them to pick up the kill back onto Lee Sinners, collect that shutdown. It actually went to the Zilean. I'm not sure if that's quite the best person for it to go to, but out of them and the Sejuani, I would like to think that the Zilean gets it, as we'll just pretend like that didn't happen bot lane. that one didn't happen, but there will be But TWF will still be able to push out the bot wave and potentially roam up, maybe look for the dragon as Kayn is in the vicinity, but so is Udyr, so will be a bit of a contest.
Technology, actually no ultimate. Quality player, though, losing to the red
Minions?
buff. Minions try and do what they can. There's a couple casters, and they will trade out as now the junglers run into each other while Terry just trying to stay alive. Lee Sinners did indeed go for that red cane, but went the Eclipse route as opposed to the Prowlers, really trying to stack up that healing, get the percentage health damage on top of his passive for these tanks, for these beefy boys and gals in the Sejuani. But may not be enough, as again, very, very strong, but hasn't quite translated that lead to the rest of the team.
Yeah, very much so. He does have an extra ruby crystal in his inventory, so I'd imagine that would probably build into something like a black cleaver just to get extra armor shred, make sure that even though, yes, you have the lethality, you can do even more damage to things like the Udyr and the Sejuani that will be building just armor passively. A little bit of a trade going down top lane, but so far, 11 minutes in, there's a Kayn form on the board, but no dragons yet. So we might be able to see one be taken before 15 minutes. If not, then it's okay. Rift Herald is also an option. Either way, would like to see some of these neutral objectives be taken at some point in the game.
Yeah, neither team putting much priority on them at all. And I can understand from TWF's perspective where they will just get a little bit too beefy for these assassins to handle, so they can go late if they really want to. Whereas on the other side, these assassins need something, but instead it's just going to be a flash forward, try and get this engage, as Lee Sinners on the Kayn, healing up what he can, goes into Margarine, will take a ton of HP out, as the Berserk may be enough, that loyalty program, trying to get some points forward onto your card, trying to get some extra dollars into it, as Terry responds onto Lee Sinners, and quality player now, here for the cleanup, lands the chains, but doesn't have the follow-up boomerang blade just wide, and the light from the Lux will not be enough. Terry playing some bait. Ninja has to stopwatch to survive. They're just a little too greedy for that one.
Yeah, very close there. Kayn was just about able to kill all three of them, but unfortunately, Zillion roamed down, and the Ignite preventing a lot of his healing from the Renata end up doing quite a bit, as Zillion will not die here.
Once again, it's just Katanology on this Zillion. It cannot be killed. Quality player coming so close every time, or at the very least getting traded every time, even if he does find a kill. So on the top side, Zohair does get ignited, but there just isn't enough damage to deal with that big pig.
Yeah, the Negatron Cloak there really adding up quite a bit of resistances, as Lee Sinner getting caught once again.
Lee Sinner is getting caught once again. No Umbral Trespass available this time. Is going to try and get through the wall, but the damage throughout will be enough. And with that kill, it should mean the first neutral objective will be taken in the Cloud Drake.
Yep. Very, very aggressive angle there. Your bot lane reset. There's really no point in trying to go for this. Of course, you want the Scuttle Crab in case they try for an objective, but without anything to help you, I mean, Zillion is always going to be pushing in. It's really just too aggressive for him to try and go for anything there, and of course, TIL is going to punish him accordingly.
Punished accordingly, as LeBlanc passive just popped by the bombs, as that Shuriken was very close. Not sure actually why we saw the back cancel out of Zohair. Could have just been just a mistiming. Not entirely sure about that one, as quality player looking to still hold on in this lane, but might just get stunned down, get hit with the bomb, and go down once again.
Yeah. A little bit intriguing there. I think the teleport was dropped by Sejuani, because it's on a pretty large cooldown, but not too sure what happened in that regard. Either way, the solo kill happening onto the LeBlanc there, going to be a bit brutal. I mean, the 1-in-3 LeBlanc is not what you want to see on this champion. Usually, it's a very thrive or you're starving type of champion. Yeah, feast or famine. That's the word. Thank you. I lost that one, but yes, feast or famine, and very much so in this game. It is going to be on the famine end of the spectrum. But that being said, I would argue that the Akali and the Kayn are on the feast side of the spectrum. So trying to make up for that deficit there, but either way, we will have to see how they transition this into the mid game. As first dragon is taken, we will hopefully see many more, but Flash burns the bot lane.
Blackburn bot lane rooted together. Arch still a little bit too close than I'd like, but sign me up. Says sign me up for a couple of quick kills. Itchy Rat drops a loyalty program, nearly enough damage. Arch will wind up picking up the kill. Sign me up already running down. Margarine, he wants to spread a little bit of that butter alternative onto his toast in the morning. He just eats up that extra kill. As now Lee Sinners gets the knock-up, gets the kill, and 3 go down in the bot side. As we needed to see some early aggression, and TIL are certainly bringing it.
Just as I was talking about how they're going to transition this into the mid game, they answered by saying, we'll just kill bot lane. And it seems to work out quite effectively, as 4 people down here will end up maybe killing this Udyr as well.
Big maybe. Does stay alive from the Renata, but the knockup will be enough to slow things down. Now, Ichirat actually at risk. Lee Sinners, known for overextending, and does once again, but quality player can't find the skill shot. Just gets executed as just some overextension. A little bit of overzealousness coming out from the red side.
We'll speed up the Nyla here. I don't know if they actually catch this, but it looks like at least the Lux will die here. Sivir should be fine, though.
Yep, Lux does go down. Sivir will escape. As still gaining a little bit, but 2 towers go in favor of TIL. And actually, Arch took an aggressive back on a ward, and Margarine will punish.
Yeah, very, very aggressive on that back. Should have just set at tower, and it was going to be fine, but looks like Sign Me Up will be ganked here. The colleague should be able to get out just fine, though, with the R2, and we'll just walk away.
Does just walk away, and once again, Margarine and Ichirat do not learn from the mistakes of their opponents. They too back on a ward, a big berserk though. Margarine drops the ultimate, but it is not enough. The Umbral Trespass will be enough healing, and was unfortunately hitting the decoy. Did get fooled by the LeBlanc, as the action doesn't stop up top side. Sign Me Up still wanting Zohair, while Terry trying to convert this, but again, Akali just too slippery and does escape.
Yeah, too slippery and too little damage on the side of TIL. Does actually spot this as Lux roams up. I don't know if this is the duo that's really prepped to kill an Udyr, but they will force them off the Grump nonetheless.
You prevent that camp from going down, as we're in the mid game. We saw some early pressure from the bot side off the Herald, but now where did TIL go?
Exactly. I mean, I did say at the start in draft, if they weren't ahead by 5k at 15 minutes, it's kind of hard for them to win. 5k up at 18 minutes is pretty close to that margin, so I would say that TWF, as Renata, is just going to get one shot there.
Yeah, actually doesn't.
Okay. I'm not sure about that usage. Will end up saving their life, but I don't know too much about using the Zillion ulti before Dragon spawns. Can be a bit problematic, but we'll have to see how the fight is played out, as they might not even be able to contest this in the first place anyway, so saving the life of their support nonetheless was admirable.
I'm guessing that the idea was we'd rather try and stall towards that loyalty program, but instead Margarine is just going to get picked out. Mortal Shield though does get picked up, actually, and Ultimate is committed. Tries to stay alive, does get that Renata E, but will not be enough for Renata W, excuse me, and now Ichirat, without the ability to save themselves, will just go down. A lot of resources used and nothing gained. Lee Sinners looking for more. K-Technology just barely getting that ultimate back up. Pops it on himself to try and stay alive, but Terry will fall before he can escape. And Flash over the wall will mean at least one member surviving, or perhaps not even that. Lee Sinners dives forward and will go down for his troubles. Quick little shutdown entering the pocket of the Zillion, as you cannot kill Ian the Zillion. He will find 2 and outplay a couple assassins, as you just gotta stop trying to dive this inhib tower, guys.
Yeah, and I mean, that fight right before the Dragon kind of shows what the problem is with TIL's comp. Without the Nyla, there is no damage, and as the Nyla got picked off early, they tried to fight 4v5, and there's just nothing that they can do other than CC them, and there's no follow-up, so really well played from TWF to actually get that pick, but as I say that, TIL will return with their own.
Yep, just a quick little response. TIL are just going to find one. TWF still ahead, still with that about 5k gold lead, not from kills, primarily from objectives and CS. Although Margarine is the one who has most of the gold on the red side, and that's really where you want all the gold to be.
Exactly. This Nyla is going to be looking towards being the main carry, and of course that's what is set up in draft because it's the only source of damage, as Lee Sinner getting caught again.
Getting caught again, but now with some team support, Ichiret just gets one shot by Quality, and while Sign Me Up is getting the tower, the rest of the team will find the fight. Lee Sinner's not able to finish off the last two, but the Sejuani goes down, the Zillion goes down, and Quality Player hunting for one more, and instead we'll just take another tower shot. But winning across the board, more kills entering the pockets of TIL, or TWF, as they want to try and make this a 2-0.
Exactly, and Lee Sinner's getting caught in quotation marks. I mean, it's pretty hard to actually catch him, but you know, he's still walking pretty aggressively into the enemy jungle, and of course with his team to back him up, then ends up being okay, as right now TWF just needs to look to set up for the Baron, just look to get a pick the same way that they've been doing before, and just transition that into the objective and look out to close the game. They don't want to let TIL scale, because if they do scale up, the Nyla does get the items and Sejuani does get tanky, it'll become very difficult for them to actually play the game.
It will be very difficult. They need to just keep scaling, keep on finding options. And I'm going to say, going all the way back to the early game, if there was an earlier priority on Dragons when Lee Sinners was so far ahead, I think that might have been an option, an avenue for victory, as K-Technology forced to pop the ulti. And Shirelia's popped as well, tries to get the timing. Not able to find it, but still burning that Zillion ulti. A decent cooldown, will be up relatively shortly.
Yeah, not too bad. Zillion ulti is notoriously short cooldown, but will just revive them with full health, and for the time being does have about 20 seconds left where there is no revive available for the Zillion, and they're going to try to use something as the Lux is caught out.
Lux caught out. They're just going to take the fight to their opponents as Arch flashes away. Terry's still trying to find more, but no minions, no space. No, nothing, as Quality Player tries to get some AoE, instead gets rooted down. Gets hit with one of the clockwork bombs, at least it is in the back line, finding more, but the Kane was berserk, but Sign Me Up is all the damage they need. Arch still alive, the Akali still alive, and of course, in the mid lane, Quality still alive, hunting for that final player, and is just waiting, and finally finds the kill. A 1 fight for TWF, as they continue to snowball their lead.
Yeah, that was delaying the death timer. Yep. But anyway, doesn't look like that TWF will actually be healthy enough to start out the Baron, so they'll have to settle for 2 inner towers, or probably 1.5 inner towers, as Kali isn't necessarily the best at taking them, but can push the wave in. And I mean, it's just a good fight overall. They chased it, even after the Lux got picked. The assassins are just way too fed. Even though Lee Sinner did get killed at the end of towards the middle of the fight, Sign Me Up was still able to clean up through the back line and was still a monster at the end.
There was just too much damage. We said that this team has too much damage, and we're seeing it work. We're seeing it at work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, right now, of course, the Hextech Dragon is spawning up. That's twice in a row, by the way, that we have gotten the Hextech Soul. It looks like they'll be trying to set up for the Dragon. I think they should honestly just trade it for ban. TIL isn't necessarily the greatest at taking these objectives. They don't have too much DPS, but look to just pressure it nonetheless, as Zillion getting caught here.
Zillion caught a 3-man knock-up, and while the Zillion stays alive, it's a ton of damage going down. Margarine not able to get any damage, and this is just going to be a quick rundown. Zohair hasn't been in any of these fights, and the rest of the team has continued to fall.
Yeah, what a snowball this is, as they're going to ignore the Dragon now. They're just going to run straight towards the Baron, as they send Sivir to actually solo it. Of course, Zohair try to cut the wave, make sure that they can't actually get too much off the mid lane. Doesn't necessarily matter, because that's not their game plan, as they'll just take both objectives at once.
It's going to take both at once. There isn't a ton of DPS coming out, but Lee Sinners should be enough. A 3-item Kane at 25 minutes will certainly be able to start shredding down this Baron.
Mm-hmm.
As everything's up for TWF. We were questioning their draft. Just there was so much damage, not enough frontline, but it hasn't mattered because they just kill whoever they see.
Exactly. The snowball early game, they were able to transition it very nicely into the mid game, able to just snowball down the bot side at 15 minutes and be able to really accentuate why they can pick these champions and then just snowball with them and get gold, get more kills, and then transition that into objectives. And that's the key part of why they are doing so well in this game, is because they're not only looking for the kills, they're trying to get that into towers, they're trying to look for dragons. The Baron was another case here, and they're able to use that so efficiently.
They're understanding they need to be efficient, and they are succeeding. They have the Sivir to stall any spaces that they need to control those areas, to clear out waves, and they've got some wonderful split pushers in the LeBlanc, in the Akali, and this is just an unkillable Kayn, but you know it is killable. The Sivir Arch stepping too far forward as well. Terry takes a Baron buff off the map and pockets a quick shutdown.
Yeah, very good. Quick pickup on the Sivir kill there. Makes it so that the mid lane push is not going to be as effective. Of course, they can still play for the side lanes, but without the Sivir having the Baron buff, that is arguably the best person on TWF to actually use the buff properly when it comes to utilizing the minion empowerment. So very, very good pick there. It makes it so that the pushing power of TWF is quite limited for the next 20 seconds as Sivir is respawning.
Yeah, and I will say, though, honestly, considering how Arch always needs to be hovered, whether by Lee Sinners or Final Ninja, there is going to be that duplicity in the Baron buffs, so are still going to be able to bring that buff into the mid lane, but as you mentioned, there is that pushing power decrease, that tower taking power. No one else really has the range to even touch tower, so
it is very, very difficult for them to actually siege. They will end up just getting a straight up pick onto the Renata. Just LeBlanc things at this point in the game. I mean, that's a 2.5 item LeBlanc. It's kind of just playing around. Probably wait for a wave here, at least the Sivir to come through, but we'll still make a little bit of chaos in the middle lane. As Sign Me Up is still going to push down the bot side, probably take the tower there, and move on to double inhib take.
Looking for double inhib. Katanology forced to burn ulti once again. Have never been able to use it on the Nyla. Has always just been trying to stay alive and prevent the picks. As Sign Me Up, able to dive away. Margarine chunked out once again. The Sejuani Bola goes wide, and it is just too much damage. Too many members that are fed on the side of TWF. They have found the winning formula. They have made a statement with 2 back-to-back mid-game wins as they look to start off Premade dominate strong, as O'Hare trying to extend the clock, Arch looking to pad the stats, and neither will really succeed as the Nexus explodes, and a clean 2-0 out of the winning formula.
Yeah, very well played for TWF there. Game 2 comp, I was not a fan of. I still am not, in hindsight. Let me be honest here. I'm still not a fan of it, but they were able to execute on the very strong points of the composition. They were able to use that composition effectively, and at the end of the day, were able to secure the win because of that. So, really well played to them in the game too. I'm really actually impressed with how they were able to play it, because it's super difficult to learn how to transition those types of picks with assassins into objectives, and then transition that into a game win without sort of throwing your lead somewhere along the way. So, very well played in that game too, and they were able to come back from game 1 in a deficit, and overall, super solid series from them.
Very, very solid series. They understand their mid-game. They know how to come back. They know how to snowball. And it all started this game, really, just with that level 1 scrap fest. And once Lee Sinners had that first kill on Kayn, had that early form boost, it just felt like it was all over, as every fight was in there like swimwear. It was finding the kills, dealing the damage, and it's just absolutely fantastic play. Anyone that you want to shout out sort of as your MVP of the series?
I have to go to Lee Sinner. I mean, a lot of his plays were very aggressive and straightforward, but he was able to actually play around a lot of them mechanically very well. And even when he got caught out on Kayn, he was still able to sort of use the healing from Red Kayn, from Eclipse, and able to play that out without just straight up dying to a lot of the CC that was on the team. So very well played. Navigated early game Kayn pretty well, even though he was, albeit ahead, still able to navigate around the jungle, around getting kills and just getting picks early on. and transition that into a very clean mid game. So I do think that he is probably very, very strong in this series and showed up quite heavily.
Yeah, I honestly am going to have to agree with you on that one. I think Listeners was the difference maker in both games, whether it was that Hecarim isolating where he needed to be, or again in this game, snowballing that. Kane did an absolutely fantastic job. Winning formula, living up to their name, and today I learned that TIL have some spaces to work on and some positions to figure out, but still, seen some moments of brilliance from them, seen some great play. Their early game is very solid. I think if they get some front to back, this is definitely a team you're going to want to watch out for throughout the season. But that's it for us at week 1. We had a quick 2-0 series. It was an absolute blast to be starting things off. Great getting to cast alongside you once again, Graham. As always. That is going to be it from us here over at Risen. Huge thank you to our producer, Syndro, for figuring things out on the back end. We had some technical difficulties, had some issues, was able to figure everything out, and make sure that we could do what we do, make sure that you guys at home could watch and we could showcase all the players. Graham, we've been casting for a while. Always an absolute pleasure. And thank you to you, the viewer at home, for being there, for supporting us, letting us do what we do, supporting the players, letting them do what they do. That's going to be it from us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and stay fresh, stay frosty, and we'll see you next week.